All right, so we're here with Rory Fraser at the Boulder Running Camps 2013. You're here as a Nike rep, kind of showing the kids some of the gear. Talk a little bit about your job, kind of what you do, and how you got into that career.
Sure. So what I do is I live here in Colorado, and I travel around Colorado, New Mexico, and a little bit of Wyoming, and I basically spread the love about Nike as much as possible and spread the kind of good word of when new shoes come out. I go into stores and make sure everybody is up to speed and is able to sell them better and knows what they're kind of talking about and what the technologies and all those different things are within our shoes. And then from that, I also help promote different activities. So if we bring out a new shoe, then it's always trying to work with running specialty stores and help authenticate that Nike brand and Nike experience down to the true running aspect that it started as, and that it continues to grow in and develop in and innovate in to this day forth.
And you're also an elite runner. You've run 13:23 for 5K.
Nearly 24, but yeah, nearly.
How do you kind of balance training at a really high level and trying to, kind of compete for Olympic teams with having a job full time and doing a lot of work?
It definitely gets difficult at times. There's sometimes the little things you can't do and you have to neglect a little bit, like ice baths and some of those things and all the stretching and massages and weights and all that kind of stuff. Sometimes there's not a lot of time for that stuff, but trying to get in the runs and do them quality as much as possible is key, and trying to be consistent. Sometimes it means running at 10 o'clock at night, sometimes it means running at 5 o'clock in the morning. Sometimes it means a lot of different things, but I don't know, I want to see how far I can go, and I'm going to try and make it happen. The nice thing with the job is that it is fairly running related, so I get to talk running, run, and do all these stuff and things at the same time, which help to authenticate almost my job within the Colorado area, especially as the nice thing about Colorado is that there's so many runners here that there's people running at all times of the day. So it's not as difficult as you would think, but it's definitely tricky. It gets pretty hard at times, but I don't know, I kind of want to see how far I can go and keep pushing those boundaries and trying to balance the two as much as possible. I'm being greedy, I guess.
So obviously you're an Englishman. Talk a little bit about the club system in England. Kind of maybe give an outline from your perspective of it and the things you like about it.
Yeah, it's sometimes a little difficult to explain, but a lot of kids have ran club track out here in the US, generally as a young age. In the UK, we start at club and go all the way through. So we do go to high school, we do get an education, although you might not think it sometimes, and then we do go to college. But in those instances, you're still running for your club mainly. You train sometimes with the university and the high school, but you're generally running and racing for your club, and that's where all the biggest and best races are. So it kind of leans you more towards running again in your club and against different people, and the season is able to go a little longer then, and extends just a little bit. So basically how it works is you join a club. You can join whichever club you like. Generally it's going to be one closer to where you live. From that, you would then train with a coach, you get all sorts of different stuff, and then progress just as you would with a high school coach or whatever, but you just kind of keep that coach sometimes throughout your entire career, which is sometimes is a really handy thing to have. Build that kind of relationship, and they know you pretty well. And as you've seen with people like Alberto and Galen Rupp, that longevity of a relationship is pretty huge.
And so I hear you're fond of the book, The Perfect Distance.
Yes.
And so talk a little bit about that book.
So that book is one that probably not many people have heard of in the US, but I don't read a great deal, so when I like a book, then it draws me in and I read it fairly quickly. It's a book about Steve Ovett and Seb Coe, and if you don't know who those people are, they're two middle distance runners from the UK who ran in like the 70s and 80s and were pretty epic. They both used to, one would break a world record and the next would break a world record 5 days later, and they'd be breaking each other's world records constantly. So they ran incredibly fast, and it talks about their kind of battle and their story against each other. I guess the closest to this day would probably be, I don't know, who would it be? Two rivalries like that kind of go back and forth.
Selassie and Turgut, maybe?
Yeah, that's what yeah, probably almost those two, just going at it all the time, and kind of breaking each other's world records constantly and all the time. And it's a really cool book, and it talks about, one of them is really kind of prim and proper, and he does what he's supposed to do all the time. The other one's a bit of a, not a loose cannon, but he does a lot of different stuff, and it kind of talks about how they merge together and end up racing the same kind of times, but doing it in a completely different way, and entertaining crowds in a completely different way. Like back in the day, as far as I know, I wasn't alive then, fortunately. you're either an Ovett guy or a Co guy based on kind of the personality you were or who you like best. And it's cool to read. It's really cool to see how running really hasn't evolved that much in terms of time. Those guys are running pretty damn fast, and it's cool to see how they did it and why. So yeah, it's a good one.
Thanks for talking with us. It's really great to hear kind of about all your experiences and kind of how you're continuing to pursue running. Any last thoughts or?
No, it's awesome to be here. I think what you guys do and the way that the system is in the US is just huge, and I think you're seeing it benefit all sorts of different people, from youngsters all the way up. I mean, there's amazing races today and will continue to be amazing races. The US is becoming a powerhouse in track and field, from distance all the way down to sprints and throws and everything, and I think camps like this and